hands and welcome Mr. Abhishek Tomar, Chief Data Officer, S&P Global Market Intelligence. And we also have with us Dmitry Gamarnik, CEO from Comparus. A huge round of applause to the panelists and over to the session chair.
So this is really interesting because when we started this discussion about the GenAI conclave, one of the things that we discussed is that how do we bring different participants from different industries to really share their thought process on how they're using generative AI within their enterprise. I mean, we can talk all day about generative AI, the benefits of it, but unless the practitioners come and talk about it, it's not powerful. So I've been working with Dmitry, who's the CEO of Comparus, who's based in Germany, on how they are really infusing AI and generative AI into the banks. I mean, Dmitry, you have been working with, what, 100-plus banks or 700 banks. I don't want to make it lower, but I mean, very powerful. I mean, we have Abhishek here, who's with S&P 500. It's all about ratings. And what causes ratings? Data. And I talked about data, and Abhishek and team has been working with data and making sure that these ratings are right, because many companies depend on these ratings. So how do you use generative AI and AI to really drive those ratings from a data perspective? So Abhishek brings the wealth of information from a data perspective. And then I have Ilya Zamora, who is the Chief Data Officer for Sevilla FC. I always call it soccer club, and he gets upset with me. He says it's football, it's not soccer. So I have to always remember, Sevilla FC is a football club in Spain, and I was able to see him in Barcelona about 2 weeks ago, and we talked about what he's doing with generative AI. I mean, what a great opportunity for sports clubs to bring generative AI into them. And then I have Amit from BCG, Boston Consulting Group, really working with thousands of customers and focused on generative AI. So thank you all. I mean, it's part of the GenAI conclave in Kochi. So I'll start with you, Amit. What is that you're seeing from customers? I mean, I know we wrote all these things. I'm going to go off script. But what are you seeing from customers as a practitioners on generative AI? Because, like I said, there's a lot of discussion on generative AI, but only 10% of the customers have really implemented it. What are you seeing from the industry?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Dinesh, and thank you for the invitation here. Look, generative AI has created a lot of excitement, as we all know, right? And this conference is an example of that. Everybody wants to be part of it. It's being talked about in every boardroom and every C-suite. Everybody wants to infuse generative AI in their products. They want to infuse generative AI in their operations. However, there are lots and lots of challenges. Challenges around data, challenges around models, challenges around governance, challenges around how do you train the users and how do you drive adoption. So what we really are seeing, while there is a lot of excitement, barely 10% of the companies are scaling up one or two use cases. 40 to 50% of the companies have lots of POCs going on, probably too many POCs going on, and they do not have a clear pathway to scale ups. And the conversations we are having with this category of customer is how do you prune down, how do you kill POCs which are not going to benefit you and really focus on 3 to 5, which will have a business impact. And then there are another 40, 50% of the companies who have barely started. They don't really know, given the complexity, on where to start from. And the biggest thing there we are trying to do is trying to evangelize with the leaders, with the C-suite, that be advocate for generative AI. Find a use case, find a technology partner, and start playing with it. So that's some of the things we are seeing in the market.
So, Abhishek, I will ask you, because you obviously have a lot of exposure that is critical, because ratings are never easy, right? I mean, you know better than anyone else. But these companies depend on these ratings because there's bonds and everything else that ratings comes with it. How are you seeing yourself using generative AI? I mean, kind of give a color on the usage of generative AI within and some of the challenges, right, that real customers are facing.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dinesh. And man, should I use this as well? Maybe this is good enough, right? First
One
of
is
all,
a generative AI mic, and the
yeah,
other
no,
is
I think so. I mean, this is great. Thank you. First of all, thanks for welcoming to this beautiful city here. So thanks to IBM and the state of Kerala for doing that. I think from an S&P standpoint, for us, everything starts with the client first. So a couple of things that you spoke in your keynote earlier really resonates with us as well in terms of how we see our both clients evolving, also how we evolving internally to drive the outcomes of on the use of AI or generative AI in the workflows that we do every day. When I say client, I mean everyone who's really looking to adapt. I mean, so you said ratings as one aspect of S&P. We are probably the largest and the foremost provider of data, analytics, and ratings and benchmarks in the world right now. With that said, there is a lot of data that sits within the larger organization that really needs to be clean. It has to be channel agnostic. It has to be AI ready for some of our clients who are adopting it. And just piggybacking on what just Amit said, a lot of clients are in different parts of their journey, honestly speaking, because some of them are on high adoption level, and then some of them are still scratching the surface, doing some POCs. But what we do really well is enabling them in that journey in the sense of how they can consume data in different ways that S&P can actually provide that to them. And for us to do that, we need to clean everything underneath it from a foundational standpoint. When it comes to data lifecycle, every component of this, from a fabric to how the sourcing of data happens, there's a lot of areas where the workflow that GenAI presents today is really helping our researchers making lives of our clients easier. So I think for us, as I said, building on capability, partnering with companies like IBM and others to kind of really build those capabilities as we move along.
I talked about culture, which I personally experience because I have a large dev organization. We talked about tops down versus bottoms up approach. How do we change the culture that it sticks? Mm-hmm. Like, what is your experience at S&P?
Yeah, we were just having a breakfast this morning, and I think we were sharing some notes here or chit-chatting. But I think one of the things that it's a journey that we've been embarked upon within S&P for almost 7 years now. So this started with basic, RPA to start with, because that was a big low-hanging fruit where you can actually really automate some of the functions there. And that journey has evolved because it's almost groundswell that we've created in the organization. So people get incentivized in terms of really moving the dial up in terms of where the efficiencies can be built from an operational standpoint. But beyond the operational standpoint, we see the same problems that our clients are facing each day. When it comes to data wrangling, it comes to data management, it comes to cleaning data. So we're now almost on the verge of using some of our internal capabilities, and how can we take this forward? So that really gives employees a really good incentive to think about that innovation is not just internal to us, it's about expanding this to the client end where you can take the value and they can deliver more value in the organization. So I 100% agree with you that there is a culture element to change, and that change has to come from the groundswell that you can create in the organization, the training, the upskilling, everything else that we talk about is critical to the culture part of it. So, yeah.
So, very true. I mean, I want to talk to Elias. Very interesting story. Elias is a PhD doctorate in mathematics, so he's very well versed in data and everything around machine learning. And when I first met Elias, I mean, it was a fantastic story where he's a pioneer in saying, how can I bring generative AI into soccer, into sports? And he really embarked on a journey by which now everyone else is trying to do the same. But what is interesting about the story of Sevilla is, I didn't know this, but there's someone called a scout advisor who goes and looks at the players and takes notes, which is all done manually, and then they come back to Spain, right, Sevilla,
Yes.
and then they all get together, and they'll compare notes. But the notes are not that easy. So a forward is called a tank. I mean, who calls tank? I thought it was a real tank. But then I realized they call a tank is a forward who is really good. So there's a lot of slangs in this language, but using generative AI, Elias and team has completely transformed, optimized, and automated it. So I really want you to hear Elias' story, which is fascinating from a soccer club perspective. So Elias, I mean, tell the audience what you did with Scout Advisor, which is all about scouting for players.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me here to Kochi and also to India, because for Sevilla FC, India is one of our main countries to expand ourselves, to get people know ourselves, and we have partners here in India. So for us, India is not like another country; it's a main country. So even more important to be here. So the question is pretty easy. And this is not how to use AI, it's having the right question to be solved and finding the right tool or the right methodology to solve it, and this end up being AI. So the situation was pretty easy. Sevilla FC was working with data massively for the last 5 years. We had a lot of data, numerical and categorical, and good tools that we built ourselves in order to identify players, characterize players based on numerical and categorical data. Numerical, how many minutes he played, how many goals, how many passes, so everyone here can understand what is this about. Categorical is what is the main position of the player, I don't know, which was his last team, is he on loan or not, these kind of things. Perfect, well done. But as Dinesh said, we are very well known for scouting. Scouting is that you send players to everywhere in the world. They write a free language report, and they collect it in some databases, and finally we end up having, in the last 5 years, 300,000 such reports. In the last 10, 15 years, near 1 million. Who is going to read it and to get systematical information from this? Is impossible. When you have 20, you can do it. When you have 20,000, it's more or less impossible. When you have 200,000, it's impossible. So what we did is to apply in this tool, it's called Scout Advisor, to use AI, to use large language models mainly, in order to identify in which of these reports appear some concepts that are really important for football. One of them is this tank center forward. When you are looking for a tank center forward, it used to be a strong center forward that can play good with the head, that can retain central defense, that can give rise to second opportunities. So the AI allows us to understand what we are looking for, written in Spanish in this case or in any other language, then to transform it or to enrich it in order to compare it with these millions of reports. At the end of the day, this tool, this technology, gives us which of these reports are the one that contains the characteristic of the players that I am looking for. So in this way, we were able to describe a player or to identify players using numbers and categories that can be typically collected through sensors in the pitch, but also using systematically human expertise. And this is what I think that is more valuable, that in this case, artificial intelligence allows us to use human intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, so Elias, how many countries do you go scouting?
I think that we have in the order of 50, so more or less all over the world, because now with videos, you don't have just to send people, you just can watch a match of any category in any country. So we have 15 guys traveling all over the world every weekend, but also when they are not traveling, they are watching videos. So.
But do you do scouting in India?
Yeah, our partners do.
Kerala is a big state for football, so you should come and see it.
I know, Kerala is a big state for football. You might be able to scout some from here.
Yeah. We have now an international team that we are forming in the academy, so we need Indian players.
Excellent. So before I go to Dimitri, I mean, I also want to engage the audience. So you have the experts here. who are from different industries on talking about generative AI, right? I mean, he's from the sports aspect of it. If you look at Abhishek, he's from S&P and financial aspect of it. If you look at Dimitri, it's more from a banking side of things. And then we have Amit, who is dealing with hundreds, if not thousands of customers from Boston Consulting Group. So we are going to give you an opportunity to ask questions. If you have any questions for the panelists, please raise your hands and ask questions. But let me ask Dimitri. So Dimitri, I mean, I've known you for a while as with the Comparus, but I also know you work with the largest banks in Germany. How in Europe is generative AI being adopted? One. Two, banks are always risk averse. I mean, they don't want to take risk because for the right reasons. Are you seeing some level of concern from bank adoption of generative AI from a risk perspective?
Thanks. It's my first time in India, and I'm very impressed by this event. And thank you for this opportunity. We have bringing a new technology in the banking sector for 24 years. And the question, the adoption of new technology in the banks is a difficult question. No? The strong regulation is a political question. But in the first step, dear Minister, in Germany the question is also be asked, will AI replace the people? However, the market for labor in Germany is shrinking. There is soon to be 30% in shortage of skilled workers. And my customer often ask me, how can my company close this gap in the short term? And my answer is to start with build AI-based assistant and agents. And I think it's the first step in banking in Germany. It's a mid-sized company business. In Germany have 2,000 banks, as most of them is regional, and most of them is have deep understanding of local business. And the new platform can transfer the company knowledge of the banks and an employer's skills into models in the first step. And I think it's no barrier from regulation for this step. But deep understanding the processes of business or banking business is very, very important. And IBM Process Mining, we are working with your tools and helps us understand the business process quickly and accurately. A year ago, we analyzed 25 German banks, and they have 40,000 variants of processes. So, and the banking is complicated business, but almost all processes can be optimized with AI now, almost. 1 billion processes are started in Germany every year, and average cost per process amount and then 10 euro per process. It's your value for. A bot trained in company knowledge called support staff in all times. Yeah. But for now, it's regulations say so only rule-based decision is allowed in a banking. So the other parts of processes you can outperform with AI-based assistants and AI-based agents. And generative AI can cut back office cost. I think it's more than 5 or 10%, but so the strategy consultant says now. No? Yeah. But GenAI has also some problems. You say, and risk, then if a company processes people on a system fail, it can lose money and damage its reputation. And for the banks, this is important things, reputation and the money. Value at risk is the central thinking of the bankers. As I assess and use more, the risky problem is growth. Other risks from models relating intellectual property. So when using a third-party AI tool, companies need to understand what data has gone into the training and how is it used. So many managers don't understand it now. So this is transfer from data in a model and then in an AI-based assistant. When companies use generic AI, they can make sure that it's safe, honest, and fair. So they can help IBM governance, watsonx governance products for. Business governance and scientists should work together to find a way to stop misinformation on these risks. And this includes doing more research and sharing the best ways of doing things. Events like this can be a big or first step in this direction.
So I think you kind of, to summarize what you said, one is the domain knowledge that you need to really get in, which is the data aspect of it. Then obviously there is the business processes, which is how do you infuse generative AI into, because these are business processes that runs. Yeah. And then 3, there's the risk aspect that comes, everyone is somewhat, which is all fair. Any questions from the audience that anybody has for, go ahead. Is there a mic we can give?
Yes, good afternoon. First of all, let me congratulate the organizers, especially the government of Kerala, the entire team, Department of Industries, and the team IBM. Big rounds of applause to the entire team. So my query is, we talk much on AI and the data and all. So, but in the West, they talk on the data privacy. Data privacy is on one side, and the openness towards the AI on the other side. So how do we defend these, both of these legally, ethically, sometimes politically? So that is my query.
I mean, we were actually talking about that exact same thing on the data. I mean, the data privacy. How do we make sure that, you know, the data that we use for fine-tuning a model is not PII data, but it's your data, right? Trusted data, rather than the data that, you know, it's out there. That is one of the major reasons why a lot of enterprises are hesitant to adopt generative AIs, because they don't know what the data has been used to train these models, what kind of privacy rules, PII data, all those things has been touched. And you see some of the lawsuits that's happening against some of the other vendors, because all kind of data has been used that is not copyrighted, all those things. So totally 100%, I think that's one of the biggest challenges. I mean,
yeah,
Abhishek, you probably...
I think Dinesh touched on it already, but I think just to add to it, so for example, let's take S&P as an example. We go back in financials, if you want to go back in the time series, 1960. So if you want to really do a full regression on something, the financials go back to 1960 in our own products today. I mean, I think that's massive. I mean, I think it's hard to find that. But that is your gold, literally speaking. You want to protect it. You want to make sure that it doesn't go out of your environment. So we do partner with data distribution companies to be agnostic of the channel, because our clients are using various platforms today or various cloud providers in terms of how they use it. But we keep the data in our environment, and it actually works very, very seamlessly with the partnership that we grow with that. But the critical point that Dinesh said, it is a very, very important topic today, around how you protect, how you build, and then regulation around the corner around these things. Most countries are looking at not only data privacy regulations, but how GenAI operates in the same framework. So there's going to be a lot of change in the industry around these things, but I think what is critical is that companies would always look to protect it in some shape or size, however they can do that in terms of protecting their true value that comes through the value that they have in the organization. So, no, I agree with that.
And there's also, I think, data locality and sovereign data. So
I'm happy to add, and also connect with the previous point, right? Everybody is trying, lots of POCs are going on, but we talked about only 10% of the companies are scaling up. And there are many factors, but this one is a very, very important factor, right? Like every board, every C-suite, every government is very concerned about the ethics aspect of it. And they should be concerned about the ethics aspect, as Abhishek was talking, right? Like companies have been built in decades, and a lot of trust has been built in. And every company has to think about, hey, if I use this particular model, if I use this data, will this cause a risk to my business? Will it erode the trust? Will I be able to answer to my shareholders, my employees, my society in years to come? That's one of the very important questions which is being asked in every company, every government.
So, was there go ahead.
Sir. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, Mike, hello. Hello, yes. So, my question is on Dr. Elias Zamora. So, I was thinking like, what's the opportunity of multimodal generative AI, particularly in sports, since we are not talking about the text, right? It's maybe the videos that's kind of streaming or maybe recorded videos. How we can apply this kind of vision transformers to these videos or streams such that can apply something like, can extract features like the speed, the performance, maybe performance analyzing. How that kind of system can improve sports, particularly multimodal systems.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
I think if I understood the question correctly, it was about how can the videos aspects of it, like in the sports, how are you going to use generative AI to really bring transformation on the video side of things in the sports?
Yeah, this is a good question. And this, I will try to give you a general answer to this. First of all, in sport, there is a massive use of AI in videos, mainly in the generation and automatical detection and generation of content. This is massively used by many providers, NBA, La Liga, etc. They are not tagging manually the videos anymore, but they are just generating through AI, identifying key moments of the match, identifying key part of the speech of a coach, for example, and then automatically editing the video, everything done with generative AI, editing the video, and then put it directly in some kind of databases of content, digital content, to be used by clubs or by the communication departments of La Liga, for example. This is in terms of video, but in my case, when we speak more about the game, I would be careful with the overuse or to think that AI, generative AI, should be done for everything. For example, videos, everything that has to do with kinematical properties, that I think that you were speaking about this, velocity, I don't know, number of sprints, maximum speed, etc. This comes directly from providers. The providers, they use typically computer vision algorithm, machine learning and all these things in order to track players and to identify the key kinematical properties. And then they extract the key elements. Some of them, many providers do it automatically through broadcasting. So for me, as a club, I get it directly from provider. So when you face a problem, first of all, you have to ask yourself, do I have an easy solution? In this case, the provider giving me the maximum speed of a player of Sevilla FC in a given match or in a given portion of the match. Perfect, I have it. If not, maybe the question can be solved using, let us say, simpler or cheaper technologies, or not so cutting-edge technologies like AI. So in my case, my kind of rule is that having the right question, then detecting which are the more stable technologies, if not directly providers, to do it. And then, if I detected that it is generative AI, in this case, I go for this.
So I'm going to touch base on, I'll come back to you in a second, 1 second. I mean, I want to touch base on a sensitive topic, which is there's always the great story on generative AI, but there's also concerns about generative AI taking away jobs. I just want answers from all of you in 2 minutes or less on what is your thoughts on generative AI. I mean, we all understand the benefits, right? I mean, that's very clear. Everybody gets it. But the concerns are there that this could take away jobs. Yeah. What is your take?
So, look, my sense on this is it will create shift in how jobs are being created. If anything, it'll create a lot more opportunities. The space is very complex. There are, like, you need to define the use cases. You need to build new infrastructure. You need to learn different models. You need to deploy the models in the workflows. You need to monitor. You need to maintain. Like, somebody needs to be responsible for training, enablement. And then more and more activities needs to be done, right? It'll create net new use cases with time to come. So I truly believe, will some jobs go away? Yes, maybe. Every technology takes some jobs away. But will job and economy as a whole thrive and create net new opportunities? Yes, absolutely. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Dinesh, for calling the elephant in the room, because I think that's a question that everybody wants to know. But having said that, I think what we believe very strongly is this is going to be a change in the demand curve when it comes to the quantum of data required to do a process today. I mean, I think, and I'll give you an example. I mean, there was 10 years back or maybe 15 years back, the number of alternate data required to make an investment decision was almost, I would say, 10x less than what it is required today. If you happen to be in any industry, you're demanding tons of data to really kind of make investment decisions in the right direction. It's not just about the financial matrix anymore. It's about the other factors that leads to those financial factors that are coming into the picture. So that means the demand curve for things to do more is definitely increasing. Another analogy that works really well for me for many years is, if you happen to be a Formula One fan here, anyone who's a Formula One fan here and follows it, there used to be 10 years back, they would take maybe about 3 minutes or maybe a minute or more into changing tires, putting the fuel back in, but there were only 9 people there. Today there are 40 people with 10 seconds or maybe 9 seconds. The Red Bull, last record was like a 9-second or something. The number of people has still increased, but the value is shifting. I think the value shift is the biggest element here, which we can kind of forget when it comes to technology advancements. There will be operational, effectiveness. There will be productivity improvements, but the increase in the quantum of what we look at from a data is just going to be transformational. So I see the balance coming through that from the jobs, but what is critical, if there are people, universities here, upskilling, keeping an experimentation mindset around what you look at today, from just not go into a chat GPT, ask a question and say, magic, done, let's move on. Let's do more around that. Maybe build some aptitude around learning what is behind the scene around these things. That will help in your career in terms of how things move up.
I think that I try to think generally. I think that we are in one of the biggest technological revolutions of the last 2,000 years. In the past, there was no technological revolution, agriculture, steam engine, automatization, electronics, that didn't create as many jobs as they destroyed. But the thing what changed is the kind of task, the kind of preparation that people should have. So to be a little bit more systematical, if we assume this, we are not going to lose jobs, we are going to create new jobs. And to create new jobs, it is what was here said, we will need a dramatically different kind of skills that people should have. I always say the same. I was doing a postdoc 2008, 2011 in Switzerland. Now, things that I am doing in my daily job in Sevilla FC are things that were done in purely research academical activities in ETH Zurich in 2008, 2011. Only for a minority of people that were interested in topics, now it's everywhere. So what we are going to face is that new and probably even more activities or new tasks are going to be created, as we have already lived with the digital revolution. We don't live better than 20 years ago. We do more things, but they are different. They are of higher level. But they are going to be more abstract. They are going to be, you are going to need more technological education. You are going to need more mathematical education. Probably this is going to be the change in the education that people have. And because of that, the educational system is even more important than 20 years ago.
What is your thoughts, Dimitri?
I think in the last months, we realized 3 important projects for our customers. Since the first one is an assistant for automatic customer support in a call center for many banks. A company working with 100 banks. So every 2 minutes, it is switch when calling for an agent in other business context. So it's a real pressure for many people in this situation. So then I think an AI-based model can help people to working on this pressure in such situation. So it's a question, is AI technology and AI assistance is my friend? So it's acceptance for people is a very important part of the technology transfer. The data is very important. Yeah? You say, okay, the banks, I think the bank perspective, have enough data for transfer. No? So we have data from last 5 or 10 years. You can train on using for fine-tuning. You have enough information on conversation. But the understanding what's in the good dialogues and then what's the people's skill to be transferred in this technology. It's a very, very important discussion with our customer now. It's in day 2.
That's really good. And we will take the last question because we are at the top of the hour. There was a question in the back. Go ahead.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Nirmal, sir. IBM's Nirmal, sir. Sir, what are your tips regarding a Kerala-specific LLM, large language model, Kerala-specific or Malayalam-specific? And the second question is regarding institutionalized lending assisted by GAI. It is scary because reducing bank jobs into a mere algorithm is scary. What are your take? What is your take?
I think the first question on can we create an LLM based on the Kerala/the Malayalam language? I think that's one thing I do want to talk to the university officials to see how can we make that happen with collaboration, right? Can we really use an LLM that is Malayalam based? I mean, there's a huge opportunity for us to go do that. So yes, I mean, that is the plan. But the second piece, I didn't really get it. It was more about how can we train. So I didn't get the second aspect of it. But the first piece, for sure, we are going to go train a model, an LLM based on the Malayalam language, for sure. All right, so look, I mean, I think this was a great discussion. I really appreciate, I mean, all these panelists are from different parts of the world, different parts of the industry, and was able to come here. And some of you, first time in Kochi, and I really appreciate you coming here and sharing your thoughts on how you're using generative AI to improve enterprises. What are the risks associated with it? So thank you to all of you for being here and helping our audience understand it better.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, a huge applause to the moderator and the panelists, and we request the gentlemen to please stay back as we take this moment to show our gratitude for your time and presence. Requesting the team to bring out the plaques on stage, and request our session chair, the moderator, Mr. Dinesh Nirmal, to do the honors for the 4 fantastic panelists we've had right here today. With a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, once again, for the panelists and for the moderator. One more time, a huge round of applause right here at the International GenAI Conclave Kochi.